I came to Villanova and I stayed at Villanova because it affirmed my identity as a teacher. One of the things I knew before I knew anything else is that my way of contributing to the history of all Black Americans was as a teacher. We talk about a calling, we talk about faith. There was something in listening to the stories of my mother and my grandmother and all my aunts and uncles, listening to those stories and being able to retell them, powerfully defined who I am. Now, I thought I would end up at some inner city college, and that's who would need me. And there were many times when I'd pray, God, why did you let me be here? And then I would realize, because this is where I needed to be. And these were the people I needed to help. Not just the Black and brown students who sat in my office as a place of safety, but the white students who needed to be able to hear what they didn't hear and what they couldn't hear from their majority faculty. As I think about 2020, I call it the summer of racial reckoning. And you think about it, we are inundated with information. We're inundated with images. And you have to say, why this image? Why did it evoke literally demonstrations around the world? Besides God, I would say that it was the right time and the right place because we needed to be radicalized. And I think that this moment in time is one that affected me personally. I remember that next day, after sitting and watching and rewatching the news and watching literally a man's life leave his body, I remember saying, I cannot do what I have done in the past. There is an urgency now. And there is a moment in time that we have to seize. So personally, it reignited a fire in me to make a difference. And one of the things that first hit me professionally was a call from the powers that be that we needed to generate a letter, right? We needed to come up with a response. And as I was thinking about that and doing that and going back and forth, there was also this decision on my part that I was no longer going to couch my feelings in appropriateness. That if I was hurting, I would let people know. If I was angry, I would let people know. Because what I began to realize is that I had spent a lot of time at this university making white people feel comfortable and making white people feel good. And what that summer of racial reckoning made me recognize was that I had a perfectly good right to feel comfortable and safe myself, and I was no longer going to let the institution off the hook. Because if it was happening to me, I could only imagine what was going to happen to faculty, what was happening to staff, and Lord knows what was happening to students. So, during that summer, I will also say, I got a call from Father Peter, and he said, I'm moving your office. And being the literal person I am, I'm saying, I just unpacked my stuff. How can you move my office? And he said, no. He said, you're no longer going to report to the provost. You're going to report to the president. You're going to report to me. He said, and I'm making you a vice president. And my first reaction is, why? What's up? And what I heard in that message was that we are going to move diversity, equity, and inclusion at that time from the margin to the page. In doing the work of the Equitas Task Force, which, as we know, at Villanova was a task force that was designed to address the needs of the university that were identified through the Summer of Racial Reckoning, it was in that process that we began to recognize what anti-racism was, and to recognize that as we've been talking about DEI, that was really what I would call diversity light. That was saying, oh, we just need to be together, and somehow magically melanin is going to save this institution. And as a group in Equitas began to work with the concept of anti-racism, we realized that there are structures in place that were mediating any sort of positive change that we were going to have. And that if we were going to move forward productively, not just because it was the right thing to do, but because it's also a part of the mission. Our mission at this university says that we care for the underserved, that we care for those who are oppressed, that we care for people in need. And as I understand anti-racism, and as I understand the work of this university, then anti-racism is not antithetical to Catholicism and Villanova. It is, in fact, what we are meant to do. And so that is why the task force, in all of the goals, and I'm not going to go through here now, but that's why each goal in Equitas, before even beginning, had to say how it was going to be anti-racist, how it was going to challenge the structure so that we could present not just diversity, not just inclusion, but equity and justice. So when I talk about what change the university has made, I don't know about the university writ large, but I do know Terry Nance, and I know the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and Equitas. We are going to present to the university changes that are steeped in justice and in equity, because that's the only way we'll make our inclusion and diversity real. When I think about what Black history means to me, it means standing with my mother and father in a schoolyard in inner city Cleveland, on my little folding chair, and watching Dr. King speak to the kids of Mount Pleasant in Cleveland's inner city, and telling us that we are the history, that we were the future of the race. I can't tell you how I still, this day, and I hate to admit more than 60 years ago, can feel his presence and can feel the mission that he ignited in me, and know that Black history is not just the accumulation of names and dates that we should know, but Black history is the responsibility that each of us feels as we move forward to make it better for all those children who are to come. When I think about the importance of preserving Black culture, I think about one of the ways in which oppressors have tried to deny culture. And if you think about what an oppressor does, an oppressor tries to not just hold you down, but they need to take away your roots. Because think about what happens to a plant when you take away the roots. When you take away the roots, that plant is going to die. Now, it may be a slow death, but that plant is going to die. And even more important, it's not going to regenerate. So why do we need to preserve Black history? Because we need to understand about Black resilience. We need to understand about Black courage. We need to understand about Black brilliance. And if we're to leave it to the popular culture, we'll know nothing of that. We have the responsibility of preserving Black culture. And it's not just preserving books in our bookstore and our bookshelves. We have to talk to each other. We have to talk to our elders. We have to talk to the people in our churches, in our schools, in our companies, and hear their stories. Because they may not think it's important, and they may not think it's invaluable, but it is. And that's why we need to preserve Black culture.
That's amazing. So I think that's about it. If there's anything that you would like to share that we didn't cover.
I think 28 days is awesome!